Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. As you're coming in the webinar room, we want to welcome you. My name is Marcia Butler. I'm the webinar director here at Advice Chaser. Before we introduce our guests and get started, I need to do a bit of legal housekeeping. Advice Chaser, the host of this webinar, is not a registered investment advisor. We cannot and do not give financial advice. Today's presentation is for educational purposes only and cannot be considered advice for any person's individual situation. Advice Chaser regularly hosts informative webinars, such as this one, featuring a variety of knowledgeable professionals, many of whom are licensed advisors. Any opinions, ideas, jokes, or principles expressed by presenters are their own, and however true, funny, or interesting, are not endorsed by Advice Chaser. Please do not act on the information you hear today without consulting a qualified financial professional. Well, we are thrilled to bring you this educational presentation. I do have some instructions for you, our audience. You are on mute, but we do encourage you to ask questions using the chat box, and that's a feature I do need to turn on. So let me go ahead and make sure that is turned on. All right, that is turned on. So you will be able to chat with us if you have questions or comments. Don't hesitate to put those in the chat, and we will address them during or after the presentation today as appropriate. And if you put a question in the chat and we're not able to get to it, go ahead and leave your contact information as well. And we're happy to reach out to you after today's event to make sure that gets addressed. We want this experience to be as educational as possible, so please don't hesitate to ask for clarification or expansion of the material. Well, I'd love to introduce you to our presenters today. We have a unique team today. Eric and Amy Duncan, a husband and wife team, provide a rare balance of skills and a refreshing approach to financial planning and investment management. Team Duncan's proprietary financial life planning process is individually tailored to help their clients make critical financial decisions in the face of irreducible uncertainty and achieve successful outcomes. Amy L. Duncan is an approachable and compassionate certified financial planning professional and registered life planner. She's not your typical financial advisor. Amy's organized process and warm approach connect deeply with clients to ensure their goals, values, and what truly matters is brought to life in their financial life plan. Eric Duncan has an MBA and over 20 years of experience actively managing investment portfolios using well-rounded, agile investment strategies. Eric's decisive and effective communication helps clients feel confident that nothing is slipping through the cracks in the implementation of their big picture plan. Together, Amy and Eric offer their combined skill sets to ensure clients feel heard, gain a sense of security, and have access to the informed, objective advice that they need to make better financial decisions and stay on track with their ever-evolving financial plan. And Amy and Eric, we're so excited to have you here. And we're going to go ahead and turn the time over to you. I'm sure that our attendees are in for a treat today.
Thanks a lot, Marcia. We appreciate the kind introduction, and we are so happy to be here today. We think this is going to be a topic that maybe shifts the way that you think a little bit. We're going to be talking today about using purpose to drive your financial future. And so if you're at the phase that you're thinking about retirement or retirement planning, then you might be on this call. And there's probably a chance that you've met with an advisor before. And sometimes what this looks like is you go downtown and you get on the elevator, go to a corner office. You get a cup of coffee, a glass of water, you sit down and you get to listen to the qualifications of the person you're talking to. You get to hear about performance and about how they work and how things go. All the while, you might be sifting through your financial data and your paperwork that you brought along with you to talk about. Where that is typically what a retirement planning meeting might look like, we found in our experience that trying to reframe things a little bit more in the with the fact that money isn't all we're going for in retirement, and that it actually means more to invest in retirement than just to save money. And if you start the conversation from this spot or from this perspective, it's really refreshing and can be very helpful. So that's our topic today.
It's as Amy mentioned, the traditional financial meeting is typically centered around your financial statements and the qualifications of the person that you're talking to, and rarely is considering you and your future and your outcome enough, in our opinion. And so, typically two misconceptions we feel there are around retirement are money and your identity. Certainly having enough money saved to meet your future obligations in retirement is incredibly important and something that we work on, but I think there's more to it. The other point is that, you spend much of your life, adult working life, and develop that identity as who you are is what you do, right? And so when you enter the next phase in life, who are you, right? And so it's something that you should actually actively think about, and there is some work to be done to consider that, and it will result in a better outcome. Both of these two things, Amy and I were just talking, it kind of reminds us of someone we know. I guess we'll call him Joe. Joe was an extremely successful lawyer on the East Coast, was a partner in a practice, made all of the right decisions, was an extremely smart person, was very focused on earning money, and did a wonderful job of earning a lot of money and making great investments and saving for retirement throughout his long career. But interestingly, in talking with him in his later years, after retirement, actually, he voluntarily brought up that he had some regrets in life. And that's not something that you hear people mention that often, and especially not visibly successful people such as Joe. And one of the stories that always sticks with me on that one is that he, in the summertime, would take his wife and 3 kids, and they would go to the beach on the East Coast for a summer vacation. And they would rent a house. I think this was long before VRBOs, but whatever. They rented a house. But he would always set up a laptop and have a cell phone and do all of these types of things. And he basically said that every day the wife would take the 3 kids and they would go to the beach, and he would stay home and work. And later in life, he really regretted, like, why didn't I spend more time with my family? And why didn't I, further those connections with my young children? So it's a lesson we'll touch on a little more, but something to think about.
Yeah, he was very focused on money. He was, and he, still is. And recognizing that there was a little bit of regret probably took a lot for him to admit. But what we know is, while money is foundational to retirement, that it's really just not enough, right? So we know that our happiness increases with our net worth. There is scientific fact behind that. If you've got about $4 million, you don't have to worry about having enough money to pay the bills for your expected longevity. And so that, it's important. It is the cornerstone of a financial plan. We're not going to deny that. But the fact is, we need more than that in a financial plan. And it really needs to include what life planning is it really, we're talking about more about your life. And another indicator someone might be life planning is that they're probably listening more than they're talking. And in this situation, we're talking at you, but you're doing a lot more listening and hearing what it is that's really important, because social connection and health play a huge role in satisfaction in retirement, as well as having meaningful pursuits. Being able to say that you feel your life is meaningful and purposeful adds a little passion, adds some spice to your life. So it is more than money that needs to be invested in for retirement. Put it this way, really think about this. If we are what we do, what happens when we stop doing it? It's a deep question that could take you a lot of places in your mind. We know, just like with Joe, that work really offered him a sense of self-worth and identity. He was through and through the people that he knew through his social connections with his job. Even on his vacations, he's working. His sense of purpose was totally wrapped up in what it is he did for a living, and money was the key driver for everything that he did.
And interestingly, we still see that persist today, long retired. If you were to ask Joe, what do you do? How are you? And he would say, I'm a lawyer, right? I'm still a lawyer. I'm still, a member of the bar, et cetera. And never did he develop other connections or have further meaning, even when he stopped working.
That was an important job. I mean, it's not to say that it wasn't
Yeah.
important, but just that role as father, that role as friend, that role as spouse,
that role as neighbor, that
community
role as
member.
community member.
You know,
Exactly.
we are more than what we do for a living. So again, just to repeat it, this webinar today, we're going to be talking about investment, not only in dollars, but in all of these areas of your life
as well.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we touched on traditional financial planning earlier, and certainly having, you know, the financial resources to ensure a good retirement is akin to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, we need to have this before we can attain higher levels in satisfaction, in self-actualization. And so certainly you need the cornerstone or the bedrock there. But I think to only focus on that, which is in traditional planning, is a mistake and doesn't really consider not only will you be able to live in retirement, but what will the quality of your retirement be?
Yeah, I mean, pie charts and graphs only accomplish so much. They can add confidence, but they can't provide purpose. So we're going to spend a little time digging into purpose and prosperity. Prosperity is one of these words that's really nebulous. It's kind of hard to define, but we're going to help define that for you today because it includes several components. First, it includes purpose, which is that intention and having this long-term goal, a fire inside you that pushes you towards doing things that make you feel fulfilled and potentially leaving a positive mark on the world. No, you don't have to be Mother Teresa or Mahatma Gandhi to impact the world. You could be impacting your community, your family, your personal life with your friends, but having some purpose behind who you are that's beyond what you did for 40 years or 50 years of work is proven to us to be a really effective pillar of prosperity.
And something that you should definitely consider before you retire, just as much as if you wondered if you have enough money to retire.
You can't really figure that out like day after you retire. Okay, now what am I going to do? Right? You need to think about these things a little bit. And then the next component or the next pillar of prosperity is connection, right? This is a sense of closeness and belonging. This is experiencing relationships. I don't know about you, but I don't know many people on their deathbed that, talk about their portfolio and what they could have done better to save more money. They're typically talking about all the people they loved and the time that they shared and
spending more time with grandkids and all the rest.
Yeah, I'm not at many people's deathbed, but I'm going to go with my gut on that one. Vitality is, I think, an incredibly important third pillar to prosperity. And I love the word vitality over health because it's not just health, right? It's also the strength and energy to do something about it. So that is something that we can directly affect with our investment in our time and energy now.
It's considering the source of some inspiration for what it's going to be in the next stage of life and what really does bring you happiness. And you do need to think about these things in advance.
And the fourth, very important pillar that we're definitely not going to ignore in a financial planning conversation is financial abundance. Yeah, having enough cash flow and net worth and the protection strategies so that you can live that purposeful life. You're right, it is like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You're going to have that all covered. And then we can worry about vitality, connection, and purpose. And all those things together are going to make you feel rich and prosperous because it's a life beyond just the books, beyond the pie chart. So I don't know if you're feeling like, we've covered the main basics here.
I think we've got the main tenets down.
A few quotes of 4 pillars. We're going to re-hit these like purpose. I'm just going to open these right up. There is scientific proof that having purpose and drive and fire inside you can help protect against disease like Alzheimer's and diabetes. It's science-backed reality. So we need to have more than money for a successful and prosperous retirement. We actually need to have this in our life ongoing. So we're not talking about investing in this just the day after you retire. We're talking about starting to invest in purpose now. So if you're finding that you feel like Joe and that you are what you do, you might try to expand that and think about it. And so we have some exercises today that we can show you. We probably won't have time to complete them entirely, but they can help
It'll be a good
get you started exploring that purpose that you have. I like this one from Brene Brown. She's always great with the connection. You want to feel seen, heard, and valued, right? And so if you're not feeling seen, heard, and valued, you might not be feeling connected to others. And connection, we know, is an important pillar. It's, again, very scientifically, we can say that social isolation is contributing to some depression It contributes to insomnia. And when you have depression and insomnia, you have cognitive decline. So this isn't spurious. This is real, right? Social isolation can increase that chance of death for individuals who are feeling very isolated in retirement. Maybe they've lost their partner by 50%. So that lack of social connection is also associated with bad health, with obesity and heart disease and smoking. But
and conversely, though, having good connections is what's most highly associated with happiness. It isn't what you own in this world, it's who you know and the relationships that you had in your life. And you need to think about, in the second phase in retirement of life, you're not going to be having coworkers or interactions with clients or things along those lines. You need to foster connections now, have some interests, have some purpose. Think about some of these connections and start to foster those before you retire.
So you have those dividends. That's
right.
There's your financial word from the advisors. You want those dividends in retirement. So you have to invest now. They don't just pop out later. So we got to work on those. So again, vitality. I love this. F. Scott Fitzgerald. It's not the ability to persist, but the ability to start over. So, what we're asking you to do is to start over with that perspective today, especially on vitality.
And you're also starting over a little bit in retirement as well. You're changing from what you did to you're starting over with another chapter.
Good point.
Right?
Yeah, totally. Mind, body, and spirit. Those are the components of vitality, if you really think about that strength and energy and that health. So we can get organized in our mind. We can manage our stress. We can choose to learn new things. These will all keep our mind. Hey, you can do your crossword and I can do my Sudoku. There's things we can do to keep our mind working in retirement. And those are simple tactical tasks that work our mind for our health. Our body, obviously eating well and hydrating, exercising daily, sleeping well. These are all things we're told we need to do, but these are investments in yourself and in the satisfaction that you might feel later. Lastly, spirit. I know that can be a concept that means different things to different people, but having a gratitude practice, spending time in meditation, doing some inspirational reading, feeling inspired, those things are important to that sense of vitality and are definitely, these mind, body, and spirit components of vitality, I think really make a lot of sense when you think about it. So.
Absolutely. And I think it's good to kind of, for factual people like myself, some of the, purpose and connection and vitality feel like sort of nebulous terms, and I don't really know how I might define those. And so it's great to kind of break each one down into different segments so that we can really kind of analyze on a more granular level. So I like that element of this.
It took evolution in our work with people as advisors to get to the point of understanding this, because, we did often do, back in the day, you built a plan, you delivered a giant book, there's your plan. But it really lacked engagement and follow through from the client. And so, over time, we just evolved the conversation to be more centered around lighting a torch inside you for what it is that you want to be and become, so that you already know how to do that. You already know how to look for purpose. And sure, when you're in your working years, it does end up looking a lot like what you do for a living, but there's definitely more to it than that. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So developing, we keep saying this, we got to work on the future now.
Right. And the idea of investing, you need to invest in these elements just the same as you need to invest in your retirement accounts and cash accounts to try to have enough for retirement.
I wonder how Joe would have digested that at the time, but it's something to consider. And so I want to offer, and I'm going to move to the next screen because we're going to do an exercise. And I know what I'd like you to do now is grab either a screenshot of this beautiful pizza target looking wheel or a piece of paper and a pen will work too. Draw yourself a circle, make yourself some slices, make it look like a target. I'll explain a few things about it and leave it on the screen so you have time to participate in the exercise. You see those four pillars of prosperity that we've talked about already: financial abundance, purpose, vitality, and connection. And then around the wheel, you have several elements that make up those pillars. So this is broken down into quadrants. So purpose includes the impact that you have in the world, the personal growth, and the experiences that you have that make you feel that fire, that drive for life. Mm-hmm. Vitality, mind, body, and spirit. We already touched on those. Those are over here in the upper right quadrant. Down in the lower right is that connection: family, friends, community. And over here is those factors that do still matter: abundance, cash flow, net worth, and the protection of your assets. So these elements make up the 4 pillars that help us feel prosperous. And so we're going to do an exercise today that we're going to really take a moment to dive into this. So hopefully you've got a screenshot or some sort of
paper and pen handy,
chicken scratch drawing that you can do this exercise. And this might be something we start today that you need to complete after the call. We recommend if you have a partner to complete it, separate and then talk about it. So this can be a lovely date night experience.
That's right.
Yeah, right. So, all right. So the first step in the process is envisioning. And this is probably this might take a moment to kind of wrap your head around, but the way I would describe envisioning and why we're doing this is we want to set, so if you look, I'm going to back up a second. If you look at this diagram, and we're going to be scoring ourselves after this. And so I'll even pull that up. We're going to first going to envision, then we're going to evaluate, and then we're going to give you some tools. So at first, when you're looking at this, when we evaluate it, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 on a scale of satisfaction. If you're a 5, you're totally satisfied. Now don't start evaluating yet because we need to envision first. If you're a 1, maybe that's an area that needs attention. So through envisioning, we're going to identify what that vision looks like for a prosperous self in that particular area. And
that would be setting the bar at the highest point. What is a 5 for you? What is the best in this category?
Absolutely. And so you're going to want to do this for each one of those elements around the circle. So the best way we recommend doing this is through like a journaling exercise where you want to start your statement. You're going to begin with the end in mind, just like Stephen Covey would say for highly successful people. You're going to begin with the end in mind. And I give you an idea. Sports psychologists use this a lot. So think of Michaela Schifrin, for example, if you're watching the Winter Olympics and she's about 2 skiers before she gets on the race course and she's at the top of the course, she's got her eyes closed and she's got her poles in her hand and she's moving her whole body. And she's actually envisioning the entire race course because she's done it so many times she can do that. And she's seeing herself winning. She's seeing herself have a 5 in that area. So sports psychology is a great example of how we can bring things to life through visualization or envisioning something. So a good way, if this is like, what are you talking about? A good way to do this is to start your sentence with, I am so happy and grateful now that, and then you can complete your sentence.
In each category.
In each category. So Eric, we're going to use Eric as an example here. So
okay.
Yeah. You ready for this?
Yes, let's do it.
My deep guy, my deep thinker here. Of these areas in your life, what feels like one that you'd like to focus on?
Well, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think connection is everything for happiness in most people's lives. And so, aside from my family, which is very important, I'd say my friends are an important element that I always try to foster and work on.
Okay, so you would start a sentence with, I am so happy and grateful now that.
I am so happy and grateful now that I spend time with my friends outdoors.
Good start. Now our subconscious mind wants something really detailed and very specific. So I ask you, who would you like to spend some time with?
I'm so happy and grateful that I spend time outdoors with my friends Mike and Paul.
Good. Okay. What are you doing with Mike and Paul, and when are you doing it? So let's make this specific and measurable, like a SMART goal, right? Specific and measurable and attainable. Okay. Yeah.
So where and when, right? Okay. I'm so happy and grateful that I am spending time outdoors with my friends Mike and Paul, riding mountain bikes on Sunday mornings.
Perfect. So that is a great vision statement that can bring to life what a 5 in friends looks like for you in the pillar of connection.
Right.
So as you go through an exercise, and hopefully you're kind of thinking of one as you're listening to our example, you want to find, for each one of these, what that perfect vision feels like for you. And that can take some time. This is a journal exercise that you can do over some time. So we're going to pretend for the sake of today that you have gone through and you have identified what looks like the most perfect, meaningful, purposeful vision for each area of the wheel.
That you are so happy and grateful for.
Yes.
Okay. So I have a question here.
Yeah.
Because I'm working on my own little circle.
Good.
So, for every single section you're talking about, can you have multiple statements? Because that encompasses quite a lot.
Absolutely. You could, for sure. You want to drill it down to what feels like the most satisfying. So yes, by all means, brainstorm, brain dump, have a great conversation with your partner about these things, and then pick something that really, or a way of stating it that really feels impactful to you, that you, because in the end of the day, we're then next going to measure, and that's a good segue, we're going to measure our current situation based on what we envisioned. You'll get to see that again.
So you'll set the bar and then see where you are now and see what change we need.
That's a great question, Marche, but let me see here. So we're back to, now we're going to evaluate. So now we've written a statement for each of those, or two. I mean, no one's going to come back and crumple your paper or tell you did it wrong. This is all about what matters to you.
But 12 statements.
Yeah. You know, I would even, just to bring it back to, let's say to Joe, he might have said something like, I am so happy and grateful now that I go to the beach with my family in June for 2 weeks without any interruptions. That might be a statement for Joe, just to throw another one out there if that's helpful. So now we've got these statements and we need to evaluate where it is we stand today in this area of your life. So the first, as I kind of identified before, we've got some we've created our future gratitude list. That's what we just created, that envisioning. And then we're going to just rate things on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 meaning, you know, not so great. 5 meaning, you know, you've hit that vision already. And you can, because of the beauty of the ease of this exercise and the fact that you're just writing it down, you can have a 2.5, a 3.5, just put it in the middle between 2 lines. It's just fine.
But this is your current. So you're going to score yourself currently, and it'll look something like these dots on this picture here.
Yeah. So you've gone to each element and you've said, compared to the vision that I stated, this is where I feel I stand today. So you've got this amoeba looking thing. So you've marked your wheel with the scores, and it looks a little bit like an amoeba. And then you're going to connect your dots and you're going to take a look at that shape. How round is it? What are the areas that feel like in your life you need to do some investing now? All right. Okay. I see. In this example, it's looking a little bit like family. It's looking like experiences. It's looking like community.
Yep. Maybe spirit.
This could be a workaholic. I don't know. This could be something like Joe might have.
Joe would argue with the net worth part, but yes.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. You're right. He would,
which is important. I think
that's good to point out. So then we're connecting it. We're looking at that circle and we're deciding on areas that we want to focus on. And so for this example today, no matter what your amoeba looks like, I think we'll focus on, let's say, I'm going to do spirit. I think that's a good one to focus on. That's a challenging one. We're going to use the hard one, right? So we're going to identify areas of current strength too. Let's congratulate ourselves for being good at making impact. We must volunteer in this example, and we must do a lot of learning about new subjects that interest us. And
work out too. If you're getting a 4 on a body, 4 is a good score. There's no bad score. It's just trying to see where you're at.
See where you're at, right? Self-evaluation is an important, skill to have and to revisit. So this exercise will help you do that a little bit. So spirit. Okay, you could use some work in spirit. Okay, let's look at this nice quote first before we get going. Hopefully everybody's caught up with me. I know we're moving kind of fast, and I definitely encourage you to go back. And for the purpose
of this exercise, I would maybe choose 1 or 2 of these to write your statement about and think about it. And then after this presentation, probably try to complete the rest of them. Then you'll be able to draw your shape a little better.
Yeah, because in the conclusion of this, what we're really trying to do is add some habits to our life, right? Add some empowerment. You have the power to change the situation. So if I'm really trying to get with purpose, it's pointing to purpose, but I'm going to do spirit. So we're going to document the habits in each area actually that we are currently finding successful for us. Like, so what is it that's causing us to have good experiences? It's like, we like to go to the movies or go to concerts with friends. You want to list out or brainstorm, brain dump all the things you are doing in each of these areas, because you might be surprised. Maybe you're investing in these areas and you don't even realize it. But for the area of spirit, maybe that you aren't, you want to maybe identify some habits you could do to make that score increase over time, just like with your investment portfolio. You got to wait for the returns. You've got to invest, and you've got to get some time, and you've got to have some consistency in these areas. So for spirit, I'm thinking, in my vision, it's like, I am so happy and grateful now that I spend 10 minutes every morning in quiet reflection and meditation in order to start my day off on the right foot. Right. So there's like, that would be a 5 for me. And so now let's say, my meditations, like maybe
only every other day. Yeah.
Sometimes I'm too busy. I got to get my workout in. My sweating feels more important to me today than my spirit. No, whatever it is, things get in the way. So what I suggest is identifying a couple of habits in each of these quadrants and actually literally adding them to your planner. If you're a planner person, blocking your calendar, if you're a blocker person, time block person, but in some way or another. And there are resources out there that, would allow you to, with the calendar, there's a day, like, what are my 3 priorities today? Sure. A couple of them might be, I got to make 5 calls to these clients. I got to prepare for a webinar, and I need to spend 10 minutes before that chilling the heck out and getting my spirit in the right place to be the best of who I can be today. So you actually literally add that to your daily task or weekly or monthly task list so that you know that you are addressing each of these areas that you'd like to expand that circle on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis.
And I like it because, traditionally, and certainly we do this as well, when we discuss cash flow or protection or net worth with clients, there are very tangible steps to take this. You need to save X per month. You need to contribute this much to your 401k. You need to review these things. And I like this exercise because it breaks down some less traditional elements into bite-sized pieces that you can use to invest in a different way for your retirement in advance.
Yeah, and if I'd say if you're working with a financial professional, likely they're helping you with the cash flow, the network, the protection. They're helping you with those items. I hope they're also helping you with the rest of these investments as well, because as we've seen, the higher satisfaction in retirement is going to lead to a longer, happier life.
And retirement is more than just how much money you have.
And just like revisiting your portfolio with your advisor every, year or maybe quarter, and just talking about what you own and why you own it, you also want to readdress this wheel and see if you've, maybe pushed out your amoeba and it's starting to look more like a circle. And over time, you'll be surprised when you, what you focus on tends to really flourish in your life. So this is something that we feel really passionate about. And that's what's called purpose-driven prosperity. And that word prosperity, again, we've hit it over and over again, but you rarely hit prosperity by accident. It takes active investment in the purpose, in the connection, in the vitality, and it's supported by the financial abundance. So all these things together are really important to commit to throughout your life now, so you can have them later.
And I think that's the above and beyond definition of a prosperous retirement. Is certainly you're not going to get to some of these higher levels without a lot of financial abundance, but given that certain point, you can achieve more.
Yeah. So we'd love to offer the opportunity to ask any questions or provide any clarifications, and you still might be scribbling away at your vision statements, and I hope you are. But yeah, what can we answer for you?
All right. Well, I do have some questions here that have come in, and I want to encourage people to go ahead and put some more questions in the chat. We'll try to get to as many of them as possible today. So you talked a little bit about maybe a traditional financial planner, kind of what they would, that walkthrough would look like. What is a little bit different about someone who incorporates this kind of life planning process? What does that initial meeting look like?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, that's a great question. First of all, it looks like a lot of listening from the advisor, not a lot of talking about their credentials and a lot of talking. You can look on the website, you can look at their Facebook to find out what their accolades are. So what I think is an effective way to start a meeting is, why planning? Why now?
Mm-hmm.
And then shut my mouth and let you tell me why it is that you're here today. Then asking you, what does a meaningful and purposeful life look like for you? And listening and asking, and what else?
And then we also have we do a values exercise, and certainly go through a lot of what is important to you personally in your life.
Wait, hold up. A values exercise? Who does that in a financial planning meeting?
It's not a traditional one.
In a non-traditional planning meeting, you do want to know the values of the people that you're talking to, and you can find areas where they cross over, and give the explanation that we often give as to why we're spending time on that in an initial meeting.
I think, as Amy alluded to earlier, early in our career, we were in the plan delivery business, we would, just as the traditional process would go, we would assess your financial assets, look at your future liabilities and retirement, cash flow, et cetera, deliver a large, very nice looking leather bound plan. But we found that most people didn't actually look at it or work with it. And as we furthered in our career, we started to shift towards being in the outcomes business instead of the plan delivery business. And as you can tell, Amy is our 10,000 foot thinker, and I'm much more of our granular investment person here. But it's really what it comes out is that these types of inputs make goals more attainable, and they drive more effort towards achieving those goals. And ultimately, we're trying to get the outcome, not just the plan delivery.
Yeah, values, understanding someone's values helps with the adherence to the plan. When there's a question, as shifts to, once you print a book, it's no longer even valid. So a plan printed is just silly. So
it has to be meaningful to you in order for you to do it.
And the values can help center that conversation so that we know why. Why are we saving $1,000 a month into a taxable investment account? Why are we putting $500 into a Roth? So that's hopefully answers that. There's a lot more listening and a lot more asking questions and getting to the heart of the matter.
There's some other money personality exercises and quite a few other elements to that as well.
Sure, and it goes without saying, we do need to see what assets that we're working with, but that comes, in my opinion, that should come later in the planning process, right? That should come after we know who you are and what really matters to you. And then we're going to create a vision for what it is that you really want. And then we're going to take a look at the assets that are underlying that. And so we can find ways to support that vision with what already is there. And we can, work on the investments that it's going to take to get to that number 5 lifestyle, right? So long answer. we're a little passionate about that one.
That's okay. So can you talk about how you can encourage engagement in these kind of things? I mean, I think a lot of people think about financial planning and it's not necessarily something they're really looking forward to doing.
Yeah,
fair.
Yeah. And you talked about lighting a torch. I mean, can you talk about how that kind of happens?
Yeah. As far as, you're right, I feel like a lot of people, it's like you're dragging somebody to the dentist. Yeah. To go to a financial planning meeting. Zoom sure helps. Boy, you don't have to have a half hour on either side. These days, you can talk to an advisor right here on Zoom. So that's helpful. But as far as lighting the torch is concerned, it's a slow process of conversation before the numbers. So I recommend a good 90-minute session, and there's an exercise that you can do. And but you're thinking, oh, that sounds like a long time. But you'd be surprised once you open up what is meaningful and purposeful. What's next? What's next? You might drill down into something that you didn't even realize you were sitting there in the planner's office to learn about yourself. And so through a very detailed journal exercise that takes about a half hour for you to complete individually before a call like that, and then through a conversation, which again, a lot of listening on the advisor's part, and then being able to come back to the client with, I'm gonna ask you if it's okay if I have your permission to create a vision in mind. And you set a time frame, 1 year from now, or whatever it is that you're gonna set a clear time, and you're gonna create a very clear image, much like we did with the visualization, where they might be hearing something from their partner that they really wanted to hear. And I'm gonna verbally spit back to you what I heard in a way that might feel inspiring to hear. Another thing is to really hear those answers from their partners. We work often with couples as a couple. And so listening to each other answer those questions can be really profound.
I think a lot of what motivates people is inside of them, but they don't always say it. It doesn't always come out. And I think
it's a lot easier to talk about your account balance.
And if you really know what you're after in the future, you're a lot more motivated to put effort towards that, to invest in that now, to get there.
Yeah. Hopefully that answered the question.
All right. It's interesting how you talked about like investing in other parts of your life as far as comparing that to investing for the long-term money-wise. But of course, that's obviously a component that you're trying to help people do. What sort of habits are you trying to establish as far as money wise when you get to that point?
Yeah, you want to take that one?
Sure. We certainly have dealt with a wide variety of people, from great savers to people who don't think about saving at all, to things along those lines. But there really is a difference between saving and investing. Investing is compounding on your savings, is earning more on your savings. And so those are habits that, we try to explore. I touched that we do have like a money personalities assessment that we kind of work through. And so we, again, try to know you and your values and what motivates you and how you work.
Yeah.
And then try to kind of craft that to what might work given that.
Some people are bucketers, right? So it might make sense to them to, when they're thinking of saving, when we go through their budget, because their budgeting requires looking at what's going on now, thinking about what you would like it to be, and then actually tracking it and seeing where things land. And so you're kind of working with that as a flexible thing, because some people are a bucketer. So they're going to have a bucket for travel. They're going to have a bucket for the new house they want. They're going to have a bucket for retirement. And they need to, for them to feel satisfied, although it's all mental accounting, they need to feel like they're feeding each and every bucket. So you get to know that by understanding their personality and the way they behave around money. And then, frankly, very commonly, financial planning is considered looking at projections models. We certainly do that. We spend plenty of meetings looking at the models and looking at the tables and looking at what happens at 62 if we take Social Security now. What does that look like at 70? So having the software behind the conversation is super helpful because numbers are black and white. It's the people that offer all the gray area as to why and does this matter to me and what is it going to look like for me versus somebody who might be just doing it in some traditional, method. So
right, exactly. We do take all of the recommended steps of the Certified Financial Planning Board's traditional financial planning process, and then overlay some other, investor behavior type of elements to it, which we feel, again, serves more to the outcome, right? It serves more towards attaining these goals. For us, we want to add value and we want to see these milestones tick off and these goals achieved. Yeah. Right, exactly. And so that's what's become meaningful to us in this business, is to see that success, is to foster that success, and not to be satisfied until we get to that point.
Yeah, no, that's great. Good.
All right. And then one final question here. What are some of the goals that you see people having, and maybe like traditional ones, but maybe some more unusual ones? What people might have?
Yeah, I can put my my traditional planner hat on, and you could be really scared by somebody's immediate drive to, I want to leave corporate America. I want to start this business, and I want to, I want to take money out of my retirement account to fund this. Like that can feel really scary. But if you've already talked to somebody and you know them well enough to know, okay, this is really truly what matters to them, then we can take ourselves out of it, because obviously the projections model is going to look a little choppy, but we can take ourselves out of that, be really real with the client and say, there are a few ways we could do this. And we'll use the data behind the story to help foster that goal to become reality. Because what is a life going to be like if you sit in that? Is your health, is your vitality going to suffer if you're sitting chained to that desk and you really want to fly out there and you want to go out and you want to consult and you want to, work with people in the real world? You're just not going to feel satisfied. So you've got to address those non-traditional goals. There's a lot of that, especially with the young kids. And it was like in 2020, in 2021, when the refinancing, the rates were low, everybody in Denver anyway, where we are, wanted to buy a rental property, and then VRBO, that rental property, they wanted to look for equity in their home. They wanted to talk about the best way to do that, and then plug it into buying a house so that they could have a stream of income for retirement. And so really understanding that some of the young people, some of the people, even older people, are really looking at different ways to make their life feel prosperous and satisfying, that we don't really want to wait till 65 to feel fulfilled, because guess what? People die every day without being 65. And I don't want to think about it. I don't want to look at that. But the truth is, you want to be happy now too. So not just looking at, I want to have $20,000 a month in income gross before every month for 25 years, and then a new car at 85. And then, that's a fine. It's in there,
yes.
But you also want to have how much money do you need this year to go on that trip?
I think what you're speaking to is that we do have a balance of live well now as well as live well in retirement. I think, with some of the entrepreneurial spirit that younger generations are having these days, that some of the non-traditional goals, such as Amy exemplified here, where you're going to take money out of a retirement plan to start a business, is one. Lots of real estate rental, which we actually have a lot of experience in. Or some of the other sort of non-traditional. Obviously, traditionally, it's retirement, travel, maybe second home, college tuition. These are some of your more traditional goals that we encounter every single day, and certainly do.
Yeah.
All right, we got another question in that I wanted to cover. Thank you so much. I'm a believer in having good personal financial habits and systems in place on top of having financial goals. What's a good habit that everyone should have in place when managing their portfolio?
A good habit for managing your portfolio.
We kind of have a little rule here as not to pay too much attention to the financial TV, right? Because CNBC or Fox or Bloomberg or whatever it is, just because negative news sells. It sells advertisements, and so
it's me on my news feed every night. Yeah. My doom scrolling.
And so it's one of the best habits is to think for the long term, not to get too swayed by the emotions that these news channels love to stir in everyone, and to understand that the cycles are normal and expected. And
that's great, but I'm waiting for you to tell them about the bar soap.
You can see, I like that one too.
Well, it's a good habit. It's like, your investment account is like a bar of soap. The more you touch it, the smaller it gets. So there is some sense of, find a strategy that aligns with who you are and the tolerance that you have, and stick with it for a little bit of time. Yes, it's important to make tactical decisions as things happen in the world. Rates are going up or down, or what the political environment is. Unfortunately, we need to consider that and everything. But, if you keep touching it to move things around, chances are you're late, and chances are it's getting smaller.
Yeah, I think it's managing your emotions and being aware of the influences on your emotions. Oftentimes, newspapers, articles, doom and gloom stories about recession, etc.
They can freak me out too. I'm a person too. So yeah, we just try to normal and expected. It's normal and expected. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and end things out here. I want to thank everyone for attending. I know we went through a lot of information. So yes, this webinar has been recorded, and we will be sending a link to the replay of this event. You're welcome to share that, rewatch that, pause it so that you can do the exercise. And I know I started mine, and I will be doing that later.
Awesome.
Well, thank you all for attending, and thank you for your time. And I certainly hope you had some positive takeaways from what it takes to invest for retirement above and beyond.
Yeah, we hope you walk away with something actionable to improve your financial life immediately. That's always the goal. And we really appreciate the time that you spent and dedicated in your big, important day to spend with us today.
Well, thank you, Amy and Eric. Once again, here's their team, Duncan, and I didn't even ask about the dog. We'll have to do another one.
Oh, that's our mascot. He's around.
That's Here at Advice Chaser, we're all about helping you find a financial advisor who is a good fit for you, your life, and your financial questions. Our matching service is free to you, and every one of our advisor partners has committed to offer a free initial consultation to anyone we introduce them to. Find out more by going to advicechaser.com and clicking on the link to find an advisor. Well, once again, from Advice Chaser, thank you so much for coming, and we will see you at another webinar soon. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, thanks.
Thank you.